es era ese toy ya toy casa toy imo kore muri kure ese toy resho musikia pero kure esa sue shako super. Hi everyone, I am Tara, aka Spirit Mother, and oh my shit. Spirit's guiding me to say this is part 2 of my last video. There's no sense doing an introduction again. Okay, it's continuing on because I had a phone call and I had to take it. Okay. Before I left off, if you haven't seen the first part of this, go to my YouTube channel, Spirit to Spirit Teachings of Going Within Self, to see the first part. Or I don't know, maybe people can check out the live that I was doing here on TikTok because I'm on YouTube too. Before I got off, I was talking about the Jezebel spirit and Annabelle. Okay, and I was talking about how Jesus is the Jezebel spirit. And there's 2 versions, okay? But you won't believe that, will you? Of course not, okay? But you'll say that, how your Christ was. Okay? Now, think of, I started reading about Jezebel, okay, and how Jezebel is said to be the woman of Baal, okay? And then I was telling you with regards to Jezebel, okay, because I've seen Jezebel, okay, and I explained it. She has long black hair. She's very gray blue in color. She has big black eyes, and she's wearing a long blue dress. And when she came to me twice in the same version, it was right when I come back into my body from dying, and I come back and I woke up. And when I woke up, she was by my face, and it startled me, and she scurried out the window. Like she went right through the fucking window. It was what the fuck? It was like watching The Ring. No offense, Jezebel, but that's what it was like. It was like watching that, but it wasn't the same. Like, and then another time, when I was up in Alberta, after I died, come back, I was in Alberta, and that was right around the time that I drew that. I drew that, and then I don't know how much later from drawing that, I was like staying at renting at this room at this man's place, and it was like I woke up, and she was there. And she was there. And I started trying to holler for my dad. And I was like 2,400 kilometers away from home. And I was hollering for my dad, but it wouldn't come out. It was like something was keeping me low. But I was trying to holler for my dad, and it was like, Dad, Dad, Dad. And this was her in my room again. And she ran off. And it's very possible that when I had that experience in 2020 after I come home from Alberta. And I went through hell, was torn apart and everything. That's when I first tapped in because I hollered for God's help and I got hit between the ears a couple times with a big, it was, I don't know what the fuck it was. I don't know if it was a lightning bolt or what the fuck, but it was a big light that flashed that went right here between my eyes. And then I had really bad, really, yeah, I won't get into that right now. But after that happened, because that happened after I channeled all the stuff of saying Lucifer go home to Father, Father's done. So that's why I say I got to beef with the Father, with the God. So when I had the experience and I tried unaliving myself with the hydromorphin, the next day was when I seen these people, beings, entities in my house. I could not see in my physical vision. But when I looked in the mirror, my couch, okay, I'm turned back, I'm facing that way. The Mongolian guys are here. The giant, the big fucker that looked like he was homeless and about 10 feet tall was right here. And then over there in the corner by my speaker, behind my speaker, were the two younger East Indian boys. And blue gray figure with big black eyes. Only this time they had short dark hair and they were gray, blue in color, and they had what looked like a really thin scuba diving suit. Almost blended in with their skin, but you could tell that it was there. And so through there, and my mirror is here, and it's back that way. But I could see them in the mirror. I'd look and see them there. I'd look in my physical, they wouldn't fucking be there. Seeing behind the veil, you know, Alice went through the mirror, the looking glass, through the looking glass. Okay? So I seen her then. And, you know, Jesus is Jezebel. Jezebel is the form of both Lilith and Lucifer. But you demonize them. But you had no idea what happened. But you go further than that, right? And tell me that that's just a bunch of bullshit. This girl was dead. Maybe they were made to look like a girl. They were really. Maybe that's where the transgender comes in. Wasn't accepted. You know, the Buddha. There was Terra 1, Terra 2, Terra Black, Terra Blue, Terra Green, Terra Orange, Terra Red, Terra White, Terra Yellow. And one of the Terra 1 was Origin India. Terra 2 was classified as Buddhas. Terra Black it says also see Terra Blue, Terra Green. Maybe a wrathful form of green Terra. That was considered the black flame, the Kapura flame. And then Terra Blue, lady with one braid. Terra Orange, liberator. Terra Red, see Kurukabula. So we'll come back to that. And then Terra White was healing Terra. Terra Yellow was the treasure holder. So let's go to Kurikula. Didn't pronounce it right, but you know, just saying there's ISIS. Just took me right here. Right there. Okay. Origin Himalayas. And the Buddha, they call her Terra Badass. There's Squash. The three Marys. Where'd it go? Look at the index. The Buddha, Terra's badass vow. That's in the Book of Mary. So we'll go back to Jessica. So Jezebel was in the Old Testament right beside Elijah. Okay, they said about prophets to get on to the like with regards to psychics that psychics are prophets, prophets are psychic, but it will get demonized by your religion and your church. Okay, I have the Torah, I have part of the Quran. I thought I had the proper Quran. I have the New Living Testament, the King James, the Ethiopian Bible, different things that is the expansion of all the stuff that I wanted to take in university. I even wanted to take some psychology. So the Jezebel spirit, I know I seen her, and she was showing me with regards to the Jezebel. Like it's the different versions of how that spirit died every time it continued to come back. See, every time you demonize something, okay, and you don't know its story, you're putting more on there because you're rotating all of the stories, okay? You're looking at Israel times, right? Okay? You're looking at specific religions where they're allowed to uh, marry young girls, right? See, she showed me back in 2020 when I went through the shit that I was going through. She was gang raped. How do I know that? Because I experienced it in the spirit realm. And you'll laugh at me for that, but you might want to think twice because I went through the hell of it all, of what her, how she fought and was screaming for help, and people were watching. And how do I know? Because I actually was experiencing the whole thing, not just on a spirit realm, but it had side effects in the physical realm for me. Because after it was, and I was screaming for help 2 hours straight, people banging on my knocking, banging and knocking on my door, but nobody coming in. And it wasn't because he didn't have the key. That was the day that I seen them on my couch and behind my speaker. And when my ex-husband and son and people come in, my parents were down to here and my father was up. And I wasn't doing it because I was busy fighting. But you'll laugh about that, right? And I was awake for that because I could hear all the garbage trucks and everything kids screaming and laughing outside. And then when they come in, my ex-husband said about me going with him. Would I? And I kept hearing them say, "You're ours. We own you. You go with him. We will go after him." So I wasn't wanting to go, but I did go, and it was like it's like something else was watching where I was going through my own eyes, and I keep going like that. Say that was a psychosis. Really? I got there. I hadn't used the bathroom or anything, but when I got to my ex-husband's and I used the bathroom, shit caused a semen came out of me, and I wasn't having sex in physical way. And I hadn't told really anyone. They knew that I went through something. People were trying to call me and I couldn't get the phone or nothing like that. And that was the morning after I had tried ODing. So I probably was actually dead. Spirit was fighting. I was in the spirit realm fighting for my physical self. So if Christina Bruno wants to mock me, by all means you do so. But you know, and I'm not looking for sympathy because that was one fuck of an experience that I've been going through. And that was extremely traumatizing. So when like all the time, if a therapist looks at me and says, "How does that make you feel?" You go fucking through it. Seriously, you go through what I went through, and then you come back and you tell me how that made you. So I can't stand whistling. And when people whistle, I just want to take that whistle and shove it up their ass because it's like a bunch of fucking coyotes, and that was what I was hearing. They all appeared to be East Indian people that I was seeing out in my hallway. Some with phones sitting on the floor. I'd see it through my peephole, but when I whip my door open, nobody'd be there. Eso por aquí no hay. That's what I say about the spirits are trying to tell their story, and you're fucking ignoring them because everybody is telling you you're crazy. But if you just listen to people once in a while, more often than not, you might be able to comprehend a few things going on. You have a story. Don't you get irritated when only one side is heard? Yes or no? Elemento que la storia tutto quello che hai. And when I was up in Alberta at the time that I drew this, I went to the bar with, I met someone at the bar. Guy. It was karaoke night. I went to go for karaoke. I had one drink. I remember having one drink. And then I woke up the next morning and my pants were off, my pantyhose were torn, and I felt like I just had the shit kicked out of me, and my vagina was hurting. And one of my contacts were gone. Like I had been punched in the face. You'd say, did you have bruises? Not all of them were bruises to me. There was a pool table there, a stick, pool stick, the balls. So not only did she show me in the spirit realm, but I experienced it in the physical realm. But just didn't remember because I had been fucking roofied. So when you're having certain experiences, whether they feel like they're in the physical realm or feel like they're in a dream, somebody from your ancestral line or your repressed memories are coming to the surface, and they will manifest into the physical realm. But it all come out, and all that knowledge came after I came home from having that experience. So she showed me in the physical and in the spirit. So when you're not paying attention to what you're experiencing, to what you're witnessing, observing, hearing, what have you, then you're missing the picture. You're missing the truth because you're only seeing a piece of a version of a truth And you're not allowing the spirit to speak for itself because you deem the spirit as a demon. But you'll say the Holy Spirit. So I encourage people, there's nothing wrong with sharing your story because you have to allow it to come to the surface because as you release your story, you will be helping your spirit. Repenting. Redeem yourself. There's nothing wrong with being vulnerable, but people will mock you. If you have the courage to come on and tell your story, people who don't have the courage to come on, because it's like, oh, well, it's not anybody's business. Like, why are you telling everybody your business? Because it's versions of them too. So I'm not telling them my business. I'm pulling out their traumas. I'm pulling out their pain. I'm helping them to see what they cannot see on their own. So if I become that version of you, it's called a reflection. It's like there's being vulnerable, and then there's being vulnerable. Vulnerable being able to share, and then the other vulnerable of you feel vulnerable to assist you with someone else, so you give it. And that's when you don't speak. You will say about an Ark of the Covenant, you will say about the sword of Aaron, you will say about 10 commandments and tablets. But the energy that was held within this said Ark of the Covenant, the Ark of the Covenant, is the two sides of self, the yin and the yang, the feminine, the masculine. The energy is in here. It's like the heart. That's why it's like when your heart doesn't resonate with something, what happens? Those people, they tend to disappear, right? You will call it a rapture. But the rapture is those people move those people away from you. Sword of Aaron is what I'm using now. The voice, speaking in the tongue. That's why they want to pull your tongue because if you don't have your tongue, it's much harder to speak, right? So you say about speaking in tongues. If the sword of Aaron is the tongues, then the sword of Aaron speaks in multi-universal dimensional languages, correct? Estoy por acá. Ele tutto risigliato su libro che è super. So there's my alien language. Don't talk about Anunnaki anymore if you're not going to realize that they weren't speaking English. The resurrection, coming to life, the rebirth. The rebirth is the rebirth of self, all versions of it. You're rebirthing the spirit. So the Jezebels, the ones you demonize, both the masculine and feminine aspect of it, that you demonized, doesn't get to tell their story, right? This is a spirit to spirit. And those spirits always know who I'm speaking to because you'll feel it in your physical body. Or versions of it. Because it jumps, it's like it goes from person to person. Where does the shadow hide? You say the shadow hides in the darkness, but maybe the shadow actually hides in the light because you say that you can have a candle and the shadow will reflect, but the flame doesn't. It's representing the flame as spirit. And when something is in spirit, unless it shows itself, it has no physical body, right? Esto es un fledo de cigarette. ¿Qué pasa? Okay. I like this. Just close that up. Oh, shit. You can see that or not. I can see it. Let's see. Where am I? Oh, yeah. Okay. YouTube can't see it. Fuck off, right? Oh, yeah. If I can get it right. So down in here, you can see it. Can you see it up there? Okay. Look at that. Just looks like a pencil. But can you see the flame? You can see the light, but it's like the shadow hides The shadow hides in the light. My son got that for me. My background. I think it was 1 year for Christmas. Back when I first started doing this stuff. So to what I was referring to. When that happened in 2022, sorry, 2020, that was right around Easter time. Because it was like this, that part of the entity was trying to tear me apart, rip out the rib, rip out the heart, rip out the throat, gouge out the eyes, and twist off the head. And that's when I grabbed. Okay. That was the night of the supermoon when I got hit through the lookers. Not once, but twice. And it was like I went into a really intense vibration to the point where it was like my blood was boiling and I smelt like ham cooking. That first time it went on for about 5 minutes, and the second time was about 2 minutes, because the first time it was like my hand was like this hand come up, this hand was on like moving on, so but then it was like I was in my attic, and then my hand come up and I gripped on, not physically but through energy. I gripped the whole side and I just took it and I cramped it and I squashed it and I twisted it. Oh, because that was the part where I was fighting for my life. And then all of a sudden I let my hand go. And that's when I hollered, God help me. And after that was when I started healing. And then I went through that. Well, the next night, that's when I tried to unwind myself. The next day, that's when I was being sexually assaulted on the spirit realm of it, where it was like a physical memory of what happened to me just a couple months prior. And then that's when my ex-husband, that was the day before Good Friday. Good Friday, he took me, like before, the day before Good Friday, he took me out there. I was in the bed, it was storming. And my body was doing the same thing. It was like, it was jerking and choking. My ex-husband was like, you're not his ass. It's like, get the fuck out. And I got up and I was out in the dining room and I was looking up and the clouds started moving. The sun was coming out. I was looking right dead at the sun. And all of a sudden it was like it started spiraling to the point that it spiraled so much it was gone. That was Good Friday. Nothing on really on Saturday. Unless that was the day that might have been the day that my ex-husband tried sitting on me, because prior to him doing that, I felt something trying to get on me. And then all of a sudden, like when I was able to get off me, then all of a sudden my ex-husband, he lifts his head around and he goes, hey, you! And he got up and he come over and sat on me. So I know when things are happening. And then that Sunday, I was out laying on the deck, looking up at the sun. And as I was looking at the sun, yes, I was looking directly in it, and I look at the sun directly all the time. And no, that's not why I have to wear glasses. Because I see better when I'm looking after I look into the sun. I see better out there. So I was laying there and I was looking at, and all of a sudden, the sun, it is like close in that itself, and it went into a slice in the sky. But when it went to a slice in the sky, it separated, and there was a black slice and a white slice. And when I experienced that, I felt something come into me. And then I got up and I started walking like this. And when I seen the farmer's field, it was just total disgust. Walked back over, went in the same place I had been laying in. I felt it leave. And then the two slices joined back together, and the sun was out again. So this is why I explain to people, share your experiences. Because the only ones that will mock you and don't want you to share their experiences is because they know about this shit and they don't want others it getting out to others, or others that have experienced it but too afraid to say anything about it because they see what other people go through who actually bring it forward, or who they diagnose with psychosis, schizophrenia, and what have you. It becomes what you class as a mental health issue because you don't understand what it is that you're experiencing, or what somebody else is experiencing and trying to convey to you, because you don't know how to ask the right questions. That's how you're going to find out. That's why I tell my therapist, when you're talking, you need to be talking spirit to spirit. You need to get to that person's level so that you understand what question it is that they need to hear. If you watch the movie, The Matrix Resurrection, Neo seeing a psychiatrist, right? And the psychiatrist is pushing pills. It says, "Oh, we're not saying you're crazy. You fucking right people aren't crazy. They're just seeing and experiencing things on a level that you can't even fucking comprehend without putting a medical label on it." That's why you perceive like autistic children and ADHD and things like that. You got to be on their level. Yes, meet them where they're at. I do hear, yes, I make that obvious. Que totoo yan. Kasi ko to na eh. I know that I'm hard to take. I know that I'm hard to be around. A lot of people don't want to be around me because you don't get it. It's hard to understand someone else when you don't even understand your own experiences. You question your own experiences. You'll even say, "God, why are you letting this happen? Why are you not doing anything about it?" You have the spirit, but you're too busy going looking in a book into somebody standing behind a podium to give you the answers you seek. Some people don't want to. Some people are happy where they're at. Like I said, I'm probably entertaining quite a few people. Exactly. I say I've even been told that I have been speaking Mi'kmaq, but a professor from St. Mary's University who teaches because he's a Mi'kmaq himself. He's really not interested in what I have to say. And he thinks that white people don't know anything about the indigenous Mi'kmaq. It's my channel. So much about everybody else or every other culture or what have you. Like right now, shit, with everything that's happening, the indigenous and people of color, they'll say about white people, but when I put it in their face about what white people went through, you say we're privileged. I even wrote like where it said about Europeans, the Europeans were in slavery in ancient times long before they came in contact with you say like what the maybe, and it says that they were doing things amongst themselves before that white people were slaves too, but when you mention that, you have Black History Month, you have the for indigenous Mi'kmaq history, indigenous history, truth and reconciliation. But if a white person felt that, hey, teach about white slavery in school too, you get your nose at a joint and call us privileged. So your history is being taught, but ours is not. Oh, right, it's being taught through a system that you demonize the white people, and you'll get irritated with me on this. You better really do your research before you fucking shoot your faces. I do mine right in front of people. I will read things, and as I'm doing it, it's my first experiencing it, and I'm sharing with everyone. So when I channel things, when I go through things, and I channel things, it's spirit bringing it all forward, and that's why my body will jerk and jolt. It's a balance. Go read what the Freemasons, the true Freemasons, really do, because the true ones don't hide hoard the secrets. That's why Hanno tuorisivaraja kimakoruitseri hanna jättää hissikyttökurssain kurssissara indrajassana keskellä teki. So if you missed the first part of this, I think my lives, people on TikTok can get access to my lives, or you can go to my YouTube channel, Spirit Teachers and Going with Myself, to get the full version of what it is that I have conveyed or deceived. Or not. It's entirely up to yourself. The only way you are going to change the system that you so say you hate is by being honest. Speaking up about the system itself, what you experienced through the system, make the system feel itself. Because when you bring it forward, like I said, those spirits, those people, you don't have to name names. Those spirits know exactly who you are conveying the message to and bringing up about. It's exposing the truth, your truth. By bringing forward your truth, you're exposing your groups, right? You share your story, excuse me, confirmation. You share your stories in group sessions, correct? Some of you? This is like a group. Ones that resonate with it will stay because they they get it. It's like anybody's channel. It's other people, yes, who make us insecure. But my question is, when are you going to realize that that just may be a reflection of yourself? It could be the feelings that you feel about yourself sometimes. I've looked in the mirror, I don't know how many times. It was usually after something happened. And I'd say, I hate you. Telling myself that I hated that version of myself. It's like I'll refer to once upon a time when Evil Queen. She separated from herself by using a potion. She tried to remove the evil person or the shadow of herself. The parts of herself she didn't want to remember anymore or be accountable for. She wanted to be that different person. So since she was fighting with herself, she tried to unalive herself. that version of herself. And the only way that they the only if it was the only way that she could stop it, if it was like if you killed the evil, if she killed the evil part of her, the evil queen, then she would die too. So she severed the bond. And when she severed the bond, that's when they fought because then they could kill each other. But then when she fought and she got the evil queen, the evil part of her up against the wall, because they smashed a mirror and the broken mirror, fell to the ground. And then it went to the scene where she went to find love because it was Robin Hood because a tattoo to that part where she took this arrow and if you shot it would guide you to true love, much like Cupid, but she turned that area dark. So it guided her to the person she hated most, but she thought that she hated Snow White most. But when she followed the arrow, it was in her closet door. So she thought Snow White was in her closet. And when because it was, she would see the reflection of the one she hated most. Martha of Bethany, Lazarus' sister. The expression pistis Sophia really translates. Where is it? Okay. In the first century of Christ, Mary Magdalene the heresy exists where as it would continue in Mysia and Phoenicia for in the second and third centuries. The female sex, the race Mary Magdalene belonged to, the race of women was considered property more disposable and less valuable than men, and especially Roman men in power were seated up. Okay, where is the structure? I fell in love with you because of the word Tantra. Terra in cistis means to cross over. Felicito muy amore. Pero questi cara è molto più ispirato. E è tutto perché gli italiani non che facciamo. For the word name. Um, Okay. Realizing the monks are serious. Oh, your class looking at them with astonishment. And then howled with laughter. She didn't even no, she didn't. But when I first read the story, that's what I did. Okay, here it is. I fell in love with her because of the Tantra. In it, Tara incarnates as a king's daughter, which loves spending her days talking spiritual truths with a group of monks. I actually seen him. I went to, I was on the waterfront one day, and there was this lonely monk walking around, and he was, because he sat and yeah, group of monks. At one point, they become so seriously impressed with her and so elevated by what she teaches them that they tell her that they will pray for her to reincarnate so that she could become enlightened. So that was the same as Thomas in the Gospel of Thomas, where Jesus told Peter that he would guide Mary Magdalene to become a man so she could get into the kingdom of God. You seem like the writer of this book. No, and then she went on to write, no, she didn't. But when I was first reading the story, that's what I imagined she did. Realizing the monks are serious and deeply blinded by the illusion that the female body could inhabit enlightenment in any way, Tara then flips the prayer back on them. She vows right then and there to always reincarnate as a female Buddha until all beings are freed from the suffering that this illusion perpetrates. Form is emptiness, 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 and emptiness is form. So she vowed to keep coming back as a woman. Okay, didn't Jesus go to that place? Right? He went to Tibet, all that, right? He sat with the monks. Was it the Jezebel? Kisunumutai. Gelo tudo por aqui, Hana. Do suto por mim. Hey, I keep hearing. How's that working out for you now? Quando eu tô não é muito. Ela tudo isso cria, tá? É sito por aí, isso lhe tui muito. O reciclo por aí. Hey, don't read because I never did like reading. I do have books, but sometimes it's just having a glance at a book at something or spirit telling me to find it in something, or just kind of channeling it constantly. Because sometimes it All it takes is just having that book in your hand, and it doesn't always come out as English. Didn't Cleopatra say she was Isis? Excuse me, por esse eu não daqui a na que eu acho que o russo created. See, I channel both the masculine and the feminine, both male and female. You know, it's called Two Spirited, but you think Two Spirited has to do with transgender? In a way, I I lay in the tub sometimes, and when I'm laying in the tub, I do this with my hands over my head. Was teaching my great niece to hold her hands like this. It helps to center, and it's you're becoming one with yourself because you're able to comfort. You're able to relax things. A lot of energy comes from your hands. Right? This is the connection. It centers the balance. Do I meditate? I do a different type of meditating. I don't sit still. Sometimes I do, like sometimes I try it. I'll play and I'll listen to music. I'll take a crystal and I'll put it in the palm of my hand and I'll lay back and I'll have this hand down here and I will meditate to move that crystal. One day I did it, like I know people can do telekinesis and stuff, and it was like a jolt went through me. But I was doing this, and then it was like the crystal bounced in the air and landed on my floor. And I mean, it was that far from the edge. I was back here on my back here on the couch, and it flew up in the air, and my hand didn't lift up. It just bounced a little, so it would only fall off. But there's times where I take it rolls. But just stuff like that will help you to center. I have a drum here. I have a few things here. I just take her in my little hand I'll show you what, like, I'll do this. I got this one. And I started playing this in front of my dad, and he said, "That's what well, he says Indians because." I like this. This year, I showed my dad. It's a drum. But I showed him. This is what they showed me first off at the crystal store. They showed me just going this. It sounds like the ocean. So I gave it to my dad. And it does sound like the ocean. And I was watching because it was beside him on the couch. And subconsciously, like he wasn't even like conscious of what he was doing. But but I don't know, he wasn't real conscious of it because he was just moving it. He said, "Too bad. Like it'd be cool if it like would move on its own." Because he liked the sound of it. It was very relaxing, and it just balls, metal balls. Peter Pan.